Snowflakes light as cotton. Shin Wangchuan said he didn't mind that I had been violated. But in the 5th year of our marriage, he cheated with his new secretary. Looking at the clothes scattered across the floor, I asked him why, my eyes red-rimmed. He looked at me and said calmly, "She's clean. You too, you're different." That's when I knew. He had been dwelling on my past all along. And he was so certain that no one else would accept me as I was. "Mian, no one will want you but me." But he was wrong. He was never my lifesaver, and he was never my only option. When I delivered chicken soup to Shin Wangchuan's company in the rain, I happened to overhear him talking to the secretary. "Ji Mian was already ruined in college. She's so dirty. How could she compare to you? So clean." Hearing the faint moans coming from the room, I felt like I'd been struck by lightning, and a dense, throbbing pain spread through my chest. He said I was so dirty. In that moment, through the glass, I felt like I met Shin Wangchuan's eyes, catching a glimpse of the emotions he'd hidden for 5 years. Scornful, pitying, superior. Back home, I rarely climbed into bed. Half asleep, I felt like I was back on that terrible day. Shin Wangchuan and I first met in a scene straight out of a play, a hero saving a beauty. The princess was violated, and the prince suddenly descended from the heavens. He rescued the scarred princess. The police station was brightly lit late at night. I huddled on a chair in the corridor, my body trembling uncontrollably. Looking out at the oppressive darkness, I gradually couldn't breathe. My emotions were crumbling little by little. Suddenly, a warm garment was draped over my head. Shin Wangchuan's voice was hoarse from yelling, "It's over now. Everything will be all right." Tears blurring my vision, I looked up at him. There were several scratches on Shin Wangchuan's face. They were from saving me. "Does it hurt?" He paused. "No, it doesn't. As long as I could save you, I'd gladly die." Later, on the night we got married, he was blackout drunk. He mumbled things to me, "The thing I regret least in my life is rushing in to save you. Mian is the purest in my heart, always." I woke up after a hazy sleep. The first thing I felt was the towel on my forehead. There was also a glass of warm water by the bed. "You're awake." Shin Wangchuan pushed the door open, holding a bowl of freshly made porridge, his gaze full of concern. "You never take good care of yourself, you didn't even know you had a fever. How can I not worry about you?" He sat by my bed, scooped up a spoonful of porridge, blew on it gently, and brought it to my lips. His acting was truly good. I lowered my eyes and saw his phone screen light up slightly. Shin Wangchuan didn't notice, focused on stirring the porridge in the bowl. A message from the secretary, when he was on the lock screen. "Hubby, you hurt me, you're punished to come over tonight and put medicine on it." Direct, explicit. He would probably go, wouldn't he? Sure enough, a moment later, Shin Wangchuan told me with a guilty look, "Honey, something urgent came up at the company, I have to rush over right away. If you need anything, call Xiao Wang, okay?" Without waiting for my reply, he hurried out the door. Although I had expected this outcome, my heart was still severely stung by this scene. I suddenly remembered a rainy night just after we got married, when I also had a high fever. When Shin Wangchuan found out, he rushed back overnight from out of town, 1,000 kilometers away, without a moment's delay. Looking at Shin Wangchuan collapse by my bed from exhaustion, I wondered, how could someone love me so much? Thinking of this, tears from the corner of my eye fell onto my arm. Looking at the empty room before me, I suddenly came to my senses. The Shin Wangchuan who loved me back then, he was gone long ago. Perhaps driven by guilt, Shin Wangchuan was incredibly attentive to me for the next few days. He even cancelled many meetings and offered to spend time with me. I almost started to doubt if the scene I had witnessed a few days prior was just a bad dream. Until this day, when I came home early from the gallery. The lock clicked open, and the pink high heels in the entryway were particularly jarring. I froze for a moment, then looked up to see clothes scattered all over the living room floor, stretching all the way to the master bedroom. The bedroom door wasn't closed, and I could hear the sounds of a man and a woman laughing and talking. They were so intimate, it felt like I was the unwelcome guest. "Stop it, I'm going to take a shower." The bedroom door opened, and the secretary, Wen Xiao, met my eyes. She was wearing Shen Wangchuan's white shirt, and there were large, intimate red marks on her chest. Seeing me, her face turned pale, and she stammered out, "Mrs. Shen." Almost instantly, Shen Wangchuan sprang up from the bed. I just looked at him quietly. "Mian, listen to me explain." I scoffed, cutting him off. "Do you remember the promise you made back then? You said you'd love me and protect me for a lifetime. You also said that if you ever wronged me, you would live a lonely life and die a terrible death." As I spoke the vows word for word, regret and a hint of reluctance gradually appeared in Shen Wangchuan's eyes. Just then, Wen Xiao suddenly spoke up, "Mrs. Shen, Mr. Shen is an excellent man. He just wants a woman who belongs completely to him. Is that wrong? You don't need me to mention your past experiences, do you? Now, I'm giving my clean body to Mr. Shen to make up for his regret. If you really love him, stop being so aggressive." I hadn't expected Wen Xiao to dare provoke me like this. Immediately, I picked up the glass of water from the table, ready to splash it in her face. A mistress is just a mistress. No matter how high-sounding your words are, it's useless. But in an instant, my wrist was suddenly grabbed, and I was roughly shoved away by a large hand. "Ji Mian, don't act crazy here." It was Shen Wangchuan. He actually pushed me hard onto the ground for another woman. This was the man who had sworn to protect me for a lifetime. "Mian, I'm sorry. Seeing me on the ground, he seemed to finally realize what he had done and immediately reached out his hand, wanting to pull me up. I avoided it without hesitation. "Shen Wangchuan, I never thought we would have a day like this." I forced down the fire raging in my chest. "Why?" I looked up at Shen Wangchuan. There were some things I needed to see him say with his own eyes. "She's clean, Ji Mian. I was her first man. You too, you're different. She's clean. Therefore, I'm dirty." Hearing him say those words out loud, something in my heart seemed to collapse with a roar, and an intense feeling of suffocation made it hard to breathe. He had broken his promise and become an accomplice in mocking me. His former declarations of protection now felt like boomerangs, stabbing my heart repeatedly. It hurt, it really hurt. I didn't want him anymore. After that incident, Shen Wangchuan and Wen Xiao no longer bothered to hide their affair. I felt like a dying fish. Seeing them together, I couldn't even shed a single tear. I just wanted to escape desperately. "Happy 5th anniversary, Mian." The door suddenly opened, and Shen Wangchuan put his arm around my waist, affectionately rubbing his chin against my neck, as if nothing had happened. "A gift for you. This is a new necklace, there aren't many in M City." I lowered my eyes to look at the necklace. In the morning, when Xiao had posted on her social media, and the necklace she was wearing was identical to this one. I usually didn't like wearing jewelry. It seemed I was benefiting from Wen Xiao's status this time. I gently pulled away from Shen Wangchuan, looked him in the eyes, and said, "Stop acting. It just makes me sick. Let's part ways amicably." "Let's get a div Mian," he calmly interrupted me. "In my heart, I only love you." I looked up at him. Shen Wangchuan's expression was gentle, but the words he spoke were full of contempt and cold indifference. "Stop throwing a childish tantrum. You know, after that incident, no one will be willing to have you except me." He was so certain. But I wasn't the one who made the mistake, and I shouldn't be the one nailed to the pillar of shame. This was a truth. He never understood. Actually, when that incident happened, I had a boyfriend, we were even engaged. But he only came to see me on the 5th day I was hospitalized. I remember that day he seemed to bring a lot of things, all my favorite food. We talked like we usually did, and he even peeled an apple for me. But when he left, he said, "Ji Mian, let's just end it here." I leaned against the headboard, looking at him, but said nothing. He gradually broke down under my gaze. "I know it wasn't your fault. It's just that I can't accept it myself. It's my fault, don't blame you." He said a lot more later, but I only remember him looking at me with tear-filled eyes, as if I were the one who had abandoned him. It was somewhat absurd. I turned my head away, looking at the darkening night outside the window. I agreed to him, okay. So Shen Wangchuan's words, that no one would want me, weren't entirely unfounded. He knew clearly. Most of human nature is the same everywhere. That's why he was certain I wouldn't leave him, even if he hurt me. My thoughts returned to the present. I lowered my eyes, not refuting Shen Wangchuan's claim that no one will want you except me. I simply stood up calmly. Something came up at the gallery. I'll go over there first. Shen Wangchuan smiled, thinking this meant I had a change of heart. As soon as I arrived at the gallery, the assistant came over and told me that a collaborator wanted to see me. When I hurried to the reception room, Qingyu had already been waiting for a long time. Seeing me enter, he smiled lazily at me. Miss G, I've been waiting for you. Aren't you going to treat a kind soul like me to dinner? I looked at him and smiled faintly. Okay. Actually, Qingyu and I weren't very close. Our connection was limited to half a month of business interactions and the text message that led me to his company to catch Shen Wangchuan cheating. At the time, I didn't understand what he meant. But now, I did. The car twisted and turned up the mountainside, bringing us to a private kitchen restaurant. It was secluded and private. When are you getting a divorce? Qingyu suddenly blurted out, and I almost choked on the tea in my mouth. Mr. Cheng, are you usually this concerned about your collaborators' private lives? He wasn't annoyed by my retort. He just propped his chin on his hand opposite me, looking at me. This is a necessary step for poaching someone's partner. I have to check the progress. He said it so matter-of-factly, so brazenly suggestive. Shen Wangchuan did something wrong to you. He doesn't deserve you. Could you consider me? I'll definitely be better than him. I put down my chopsticks and picked up my bag. Mr. Cheng, you're crossing the line. We have a working relationship, and my private life doesn't need your interference. I paid the bill, wanting to leave quickly. But my hem was caught, and a voice sounding wrong came from behind. I'm sorry, I was too presumptuous. I turned around and met his eyes. They were beautiful peach blossom eyes, but they were unusually serious at the moment. I just feel he doesn't deserve you. You deserve better. Qingyu's words were very direct. You could easily hear the naked affection. But I looked at him and suddenly smiled. You don't understand. What? Qingyu looked very confused. But I didn't explain. After all, we weren't familiar enough for that. Later, Qingyu still drove me home. We were still collaborators. There was no need to end things badly. As I got out of the car, he suddenly called out to me, Jean Mian. When I turned back, a bouquet of fiery red roses was suddenly thrust into my arms. For you, I hope they make you happy. As if afraid I would refuse, he drove away as if escaping as soon as he finished speaking. I held the flowers and opened the door to my apartment. As soon as I entered, I saw Shen Wangchuan sitting there with a gloomy expression. He seemed a bit unhappy, but I had no intention of caring. Holding the flowers, I walked past him, looking for a vase to put them in. But suddenly, a warm body pressed against me from behind. Then, I was pushed onto the sofa. Shen Wangchuan looked down at me, his gaze lingering on my face. Who brought you back? A collaborator. My tone was calm. But he already sent roses to my wife. In a couple more days, will I find you two in bed? Shen Wangchuan. I sharply cut him off. Shen Wangchuan laughed, and his eyes seemed to be losing control. He leaned down, slowly getting closer, and his hand reached under my clothes, gently stroking my skin. Does he know that you were once violated? My fingernails dug into my palms, but I still managed to lift one hand to trace his eyebrows. What? Are you going to tell him? Tell him I was tied up, pinned down, before I could finish speaking, he interrupted me angrily. Enough. I scoffed, looking at him coldly. Wanting to have your cake and eat it too, trying to have both your wife and your mistress, you've really mastered this game. Shen Wangchuan suddenly froze, then laughed. Are you jealous? Don't worry, Mian, I'll break things off with Wen Xiao. We'll never mention this again, okay? You know, I only have you in my heart. I looked at him, saying nothing more. From that day on, Shen Wangchuan seemed to really cut ties with Wen Xiao. It was as if we had gone back to how things were before. A few days later, I suddenly felt unwell and took a taxi to the hospital alone. Just after registering, I turned around and froze. People were coming and going in the hospital, but I spotted Shin Wangchuan at a glance. He was carefully helping someone walk, his hands supporting her lower back, a gentle smile on his face. The woman beside him was She was stroking her still flat abdomen with one hand. To anyone watching, they looked like a happy young couple. I wanted to flee, but my legs felt heavy, unable to move. When he seemed to sense my gaze, the moment she looked up, she met my eyes. There wasn't a trace of embarrassment on her face. Instead, she flashed me a victorious smile. My hand trembled as I reached for my phone. I dialed the number I knew by heart. Shin Wangchuan's movements paused, then he answered, "What is it, Mian?" "I'm in a meeting at the company." "How ridiculous," I said. "Look behind you." Shin Wangchuan whirled around, his face instantly freezing. "Mian, why are you here? Are you not feeling well?" I couldn't be bothered to look at him anymore. I turned and prepared to leave. Shin Wangchuan chased after me, not even bothering about when he and the baby in her belly. "Mian, stop making a scene. I was just accompanying her to the hospital for a checkup." Such a weak, pale explanation. Did he really think I was a 3-year-old? Did he think I would still trust him unconditionally? After leaving the hospital entrance, I walked too fast and didn't see the car speeding towards me. By the time I noticed, it was too late. Just as the car was about to hit me, my arm was violently yanked. I was thrown to the ground, scraping the skin on my hand, and heard a crash behind me. Shin Wangchuan had blocked the car for me. In the critical moment, he had used his own life to save mine. I lunged towards him. Shin Wangchuan lay there covered in blood, yet he tried to reach out and wipe the tears from my face. "Don't cry, Mian. As long as you're okay, that's all that matters." Before he could finish, the hand he had raised fell limp. "Ambulance! Help me, help!" I frantically screamed for help to save Shin Wangchuan. The surgery lasted for 10 hours. Fortunately, he survived. The first thing he asked when he opened his eyes was, "Mian, are you okay?" I sobbed uncontrollably. Shin Wangchuan's spoken contempt was real, but it was also true that he had saved my life twice. I couldn't understand his feelings. Most importantly, since Shin Wangchuan was injured saving me, ethically and reasonably, I couldn't just ignore him. And so, the divorce was postponed. The turning point came 2 months later one afternoon. Qingyu stood beside me, gripping the hem of my dress, his voice trembling slightly. "He won't change. That woman is pregnant. You can't sacrifice your whole life just because he saved you once." When Shin Wangchuan came out, this was the scene he saw. "This is between the two of us. It's not for an outsider like you to butt in." He punched Qingyu without hesitation, and Qingyu retaliated. "It's clearly your own problem. You have a wife and you're still seeing a mistress. You're dirty and despicable. You don't deserve Ji Mian at all." As he spoke, Shin Wangchuan was punched by Qingyu, and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He suddenly stopped fighting and sneered, "I'm dirty? What if I told you that Ji Mian was raped in college? Would you still think I don't deserve her?" The air suddenly froze. The secret that Shin Wangchuan had once sworn to protect for a lifetime was spoken so lightly. In front of everyone, completely disregarding my humiliation. I watched Qingyu's sudden pause, my lips trembling. I could almost anticipate what he was about to say. Not wanting to put him in a difficult position, I looked at him. "You should go." "Qingyu." Now, only Shin Wangchuan and I remained. "Mian, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." I didn't want to get entangled with him anymore and cut him off. "Shin Wangchuan, let's get a divorce." "No." He reached out, wanting to embrace me. "I was just angry for a moment. I didn't mean to hurt you. Let's not get a divorce, okay?" I pried his hands from my waist, finger by finger. "No. I don't love you anymore, Shin Wangchuan. I want a divorce." When I walked out of the hospital room, Shin Wangchuan didn't look at me. He just looked out the window, muttering, "You'll come back." By then, you'll only have me by your side. After leaving the hospital, I moved out of our home. Aside from changing my contact person for the collaboration with Qingyu and having nightmares for 2 nights, everything was calm. Until that day. Suddenly, a large group of reporters surrounded the gallery, blocking the entrance. The young assistant girl rushed over with her phone. "Gee sis, look at the trending topics." I took the phone and saw it immediately on the list. #Gmeon University. A buzzing sound filled my ears. Everything in front of me seemed to spin, making me dizzy and nauseous. "Gee sis! Gee sis!" The assistant's voice suddenly rose. Snapping me out of my daze. My back was covered in cold sweat. I clicked on the topic, and it was about that incident from years ago. But the comments were surprisingly uniform, all negative. "She looks pretty good, can't believe she's used goods. If you ask me, she must have seduced him. Otherwise, why would he attack her and not others? Something like this happened, and she still has the nerve to show her face? Her skin must be thicker than a city wall." The insults surged wave after wave. There were even posts revealing details of the incident, and photoshopped nude pictures were everywhere. Worst of all, collaborators had already sent cancellation notices. I knew someone was behind this. On the way home, Shen Wangchuan kept calling. I suddenly remembered what he said at the hospital. So this was how he planned to make me come back. To force me to stay by his side. He didn't hesitate to ruin my reputation. Then, things would be just as he said, only he would remain by my side. But was this really love? I had a headache, rubbing my temples. My phone suddenly alerted me to a new message on WeChat. I opened it. There were former classmates, longtime friends. "Mian, are you okay? Don't mind those keyboard warriors online. Let me know if you need anything. Mian, don't be afraid. I'm looking for that dog who leaked the info. Once I find him, we'll go kick his ass. Wait at home, I'm already on a plane. My girl, don't be afraid. The truth will always come out. Mom and Dad will always support you." Tears fell involuntarily. "Are you okay, G sis?" I looked up and smiled at the assistant. "I'm fine." Shen Wangchuan always thought he was my lifesaver. But he was wrong. Ji Mian, was never alone. Life went on as usual. I still went to work every day. The gallery increased security. If anyone caused trouble, they were sent directly to the police station. We sent away 5 groups of people in 3 days. Because of my silence, the incident remained a hot topic. Netizens started digging into my past, trying to find my dark history. But the more they dug, the more something felt wrong. Some people noticed the irregularities, and voices speaking up for me gradually appeared online. Suddenly, the tide turned. This brought another huge wave of traffic and attention. The value of my gallery's artwork also tripled, and more collaborators came looking for me. I had achieved my goal. Then I called a media friend and told her I wanted to do an interview. After the live stream began, tens of thousands of netizens flooded into the chat. "This woman is so shameless, she was raped and she's still doing a live stream. She's wearing a dress again, probably going to seduce someone after the live stream is over. Upstairs, can you please stop thinking with your lower body? Donate your brain if you're not using it. Sister is so beautiful, sending hugs." The comments made my head spin. There was encouragement, there were insults. I accepted them all. After a few pleasantries with the host, the interview got to the point. "Miss G, we've gathered some highly liked comments from social media. I'll read them to you now, and you can choose to respond to them." I smiled and nodded. "Slut, did you intentionally seduce the teacher? Seeing that you couldn't climb the ranks, you're now turning the tables? No. To deal with the trolls, if you explain too much, they'll think they're important. Being concise makes them jump." Sure enough, after I spoke, a new round of fighting started in the comments. Only 2 words? She must be guilty and afraid to say more? Well done. Sister, don't fall into the trap of needing to prove yourself. She clarified. Trolls, show your evidence. The host and I exchanged glances and moved on to the next tee. Oh, Bick. Miss G, some netizens say your academic degrees and awards were also obtained by selling yourself. What is your response to this question? No. Furthermore, I'd like to add that if anyone has objections to my academic degrees or awards, they are welcome to file a legal report. If you don't know where to report, please see the pinned comment in my comments section. The comments continued, "This woman must be crazy, offering the reporting channel directly? What do you know? This is called not fearing the crooked shadow when you stand straight. Why haven't you reported her yet? Is it because you don't want to? Haha. Trolls, speak up. Probably because they're just spreading rumors and have no evidence. Why are you still wearing a dress? Don't you care at all about being violated? Why shouldn't I wear a dress? Is there something wrong with dresses? Why aren't you condemning the criminals with twisted minds instead of condemning people who wear dresses? You've lost your virginity, don't you feel ashamed? How do you even have the face to live? Why should I feel ashamed? I wasn't the one who did anything wrong, and I shouldn't be the one who feels ashamed. I'm alive because there's more to my life than just virginity. There are many things I value more. I can't leave my parents without support in their old age. The 20+ years of education I received can't be ruined. My long and beautiful life can't be destroyed because of a beast's mistake. Just because I didn't cry hysterically, didn't try to kill myself, didn't act like the victim you imagined, unable to move on from the pain, so you conclude that I am shameless and shouldn't live? If this happened to your family members, I ask you, would you still think this way? I smiled and shook my head, looking at the camera. The most cruel form of secondary damage is forcing the victim to bear the guilt of the perpetrator. But that's not fair. I'm standing here today because I want to say to the countless G-meons in this world, please, you must pull yourselves together. We don't need shame, evasion, or struggle. It is never us who should be judged and scrutinized. No matter what happens, stand firmly on your own side and save yourselves from 1,000 fires and floods. After the live stream ended, a stranger, a young woman, came over and hugged me. Her beautiful eyes were glistening with tears. Thank you. I told her, live bravely. Our path ahead is clear. As I left, I saw a familiar figure around the corner of the elevator, but they disappeared in an instant. When I got home, it was already evening. The apartment was dark. I pressed the switch, and it instantly lit up. Shen Wangchuan was sitting on the sofa. Seeing me return, he forced a bitter smile onto his ashen face. Mian, you looked very photogenic, very beautiful. I took a few steps forward and placed the divorce agreement on the table. You wanted to push me back into hell, but you failed. We're even now, Shen Wangchuan. He froze for a moment, then understood, and his eyes looking at me became pleading. No. I won't divorce, Mian. I didn't mean any harm. I just wanted you to see clearly that I'm the one who loves you most. I know I was wrong. I just cared about you too much. I was afraid you'd leave me. I looked at him and shook my head. True love doesn't hurt. Your actions were just trying to force me to stay by your side. The secret you once said you would protect for me has now become the shackles you use to imprison me. To achieve your goal, you resorted to unscrupulous means, dragging me back into the mud. Is that what you call love? I knew Shen Wangchuan too well. He wanted to use this incident to make me feel inferior and timid. When I found myself surrounded by rain, I would forget his past betrayal and hurt, and return to his umbrella. He had seen me when I was lying in the mud. From sunrise to sunset, I would just huddle in the corner by the bed, constantly rubbing my body with my hands. Until it turned red, bled, and was covered in scars. I was like a numb puppet. Finally, one day, I held a knife to my wrist. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew, and the succulent I had been raising fell to the ground, shattering into pieces. The knife fell from my hand. I stumbled over. It shouldn't be like this. I planted it myself, watched it grow this big. Should I just let it lie there on the ground, dry up and die? No! I have to save it. Trembling, I picked up the succulent, repotted it, watered it, and decorated it with sparkling shells. After doing all this, a ray of sunlight shone in from the window. My eyes suddenly welled up, and large tears fell. My fingertips brushed against the green succulent, and I sobbed, "I'm so sorry. Just a moment ago, I was about to give up on you." That's when I understood that when you fall into an abyss, you can only save yourself. So, I survived. But that memory was anything but pleasant. Now, Shen Wangchuan completely disregarded my feelings, trying to pull me back into the mud, just for the sake of the love he spoke of. This was selfish and cold, and it drained the last of my affection for him. I stood up and turned to walk away. "Thank you for saving me once. That's why I've told my friends not to pursue the person who started this incident. Shen Wangchuan, sign it. Don't make me look down on you." As I left, I heard the man's whimpering from behind, "Mian. I'm sorry. I still lost you." The day of the divorce was sunny. Shen Wangchuan stood beside me. He looked much more haggard, "Mian, when his child has been aborted. I've really broken things off with her." I had heard about that. They had a huge fight because of the child and completely fell out. "I'll wait for you, until the day you accept me again." Just as he finished speaking, I saw a familiar figure in the crowd. It was Qing Yu. "Done? I wonder if I have the honor of taking you out for a meal?" I was surprised by the change in his attitude when a car horn suddenly blared in the distance. I smiled at him and turned towards the young assistant girl. "The gallery is doing well lately. The boss is treating you to a big meal today." Yay! Gee sis. My life is still long. Who knows what the future holds? Right now, I just want to wish myself well, resilient and proud.